Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, panel members. Over the past 2 days, we were discussing all about phygital, the online, offline coming together, and that going to be the new normal. Today, we are going to touch upon a very interesting topic, which is how to make this business profitable. And for that, we have this esteemed guest panelists who would be discussing over the next 1 hour on this particular subject. And we would be particularly focusing on aspects like growth, the customer satisfaction, and how do we retain our customers, user retention. I understand it is not a very good time, of the event when we need to have a session, because I see a lot of chairs empty yet, people are not yet back from the lunch. But again, nevertheless, let us start the discussion. Is the pandemic over, or is it here to stay? The question is, we have evolved. The consumers have decided what they wish to. They have made their choices very clear. What they want to buy online, what they want to buy offline. Thanks to the vaccination drives and the little piece of cloth or the fabric that we have been sporting on our faces, and largely, if I may say, the human instincts, the social instincts have started drawing us, pulling us back into the malls. Yesterday, during the discussion, when we were hearing various retail leaders, they have already identified, while for each one of them this was trying times for the last 18 months, they have already now moved ahead. They have rewired themselves, reconfigured themselves, and now they are thinking where the next investment would be. And let me share with you what were some of the themes which came out. One was definitely they want to invest in brands. They spoke about technology, and in the same breath they spoke about convenience and experience where they want to invest in. Someone said they want to invest in 12 seasons supply chain, right? The other interesting point was they want to invest in people and culture. That is something which we all learned, and as human beings we came closer during this pandemic period. One thing which the pandemic forced each one was to go to a online kind of a platform. But another very interesting point which came up is leaders saying that we want to invest in brick and mortar stores and even larger stores. So I'll start this discussion with Anay. Anay, the Geo World Center coming up almost at the end of pandemic, a pretty large one. Then also Reliance coming up with the small boxes in 7-Eleven. And of course you have the Super JioMart. What are the retailers thinking on the customer experience, the customer engagement today? How are they thinking differently? If you could throw some light on that.
Thank you, Sandeep. Good afternoon to all. See, we have recently launched JWC as well as 7-Eleven stores. JioMart we started somewhere around May of last year in the height of pandemic, just to make sure that we are serving all our customers, making sure the essentials are there. Now, if we talk about, and you talked about retailers need to think differently. But I would flip the question and say, how are customer behaving? Is the customer decision tree, has it changed? Largely the answer is no. When she goes back to a store, her behavior is similar to what she has been, doing previously. Especially because I lead the grocery format, and these are daily need items. And once she lands in a store, her behavior is more or less similar. What has changed is, as responsible retailers, we have to give indications that the pandemic is not over, that you have to be safe, and that this is a safe environment. These indications are given in each and every store, whenever and wherever you are entering into any Reliance retail stores. So this mindset is something which is, different now. While previously we always had mystery audits, from various organizations going and seeing how is the customer feeling, whether whatever principles we have decided, are they still sticking to it or not. We still have those mystery audits happening, but now the focus has changed. Now the focus of safety has increased. But largely from a customer point of view, I think her decision tree remains same. The 3 C's of store design, as we call it: catchment, competition, and community. They still exist, right? Those things don't go away.
So if I may say, like you interestingly pointed out that you are in the grocery format, but then you have the GeoMarts doing the same function, you have Amazon pantries doing the same thing, and there are many other big baskets doing, servicing the same catchment. Now, there is a safety element that you brought about, and there is a convenience. Now, is consumer going to the mall because of the experience or maybe the celebration? What is it that the customer looking for?
So, to be honest, India, if you look at uh, us as an overall community, grocery shopping is not a chore for us. It is still a family destination. Our stores, we still believe, are a family destination, right? So there is one store in Ahmedabad, and I'm forgetting the name. Bang opposite to it, there is a McD, right? So we hear so much from the store teams that they every Sunday people, would come in a car, shop for their groceries, and then go to the McD just to complete that whole circle. So it's still, a moment of joy for a family to shop together in India. It's not a chore. So it's that celebration spirit that you talked about. I think that's very important.
Okay, thanks, Anay. Abhijit, you have been managing and looking after the airport duty free. What has changed? What do you feel are the customers' expectations? What are the challenges that you faced during the pandemic, and going forward, how do you see the entire business evolve?
Sure. As we all know, moment the pandemic hit all of us, the very first few businesses which went out of business was the airport or the travel retail, because flights stopped moving, the international borders were sealed. Uh, Answering your question, what has changed is when we sat down after a month of closure during the first lockdown to form a strategy, what next, we started speaking to lots of our regular travelers, and we call them world travelers, and we asked them, when travel opens, what do you want? The answer from everywhere was convenience. So it was not fear, it was not low touch shopping. Still, they wanted to come and experience the shop, but they wanted to have an option available to them where they have a quick check-in, check-out kind of an experience through the shop. Now that gave us kind of an insight what we need to do. So we actually formed a strategy called 5x5. What was 5x5 for us is the entire digital transformation. Either it is customer facing or it is backend. What we wanted to do in 5 years, we decided to do it in 5 months. It was a very, very ambitious target. We created a team. We repurposed lots of teams because teams were free. And we were one of the first few retailers in the country, not even travel retailers, among many other retailers, to start book online pickup in sight in flat 3 months when the borders reopened, scan and pay like what we see in Amazon, Go or Now stores, all those popular videos, self-checkout. Now, things like that were developed. Now, those were developed not for a reason that we wanted to tell our customers and world travelers that now it is safe, please come and shop, because we understood it very clearly. The fear is very short-lived for the pandemic. The pandemic, as we all now say, is endemic, may or may not stay forever, but the fear is going down. But we wanted to respond to them by saying, yes, we are serious about you. Wherever you travel in the world, you will not see a serious retailer or a duty-free retailer like us. How do we see this evolving in future? Travel retail is a segment which has been one of the poorest adopter of technology globally. I'm talking even about, we were discussing a while back, even our $2 billion or a $5 billion companies who are there in 20 countries, 40 countries doing travel retail business have been the worst adopter of technology for whatever legacy reasons. What has the pandemic has helped is it has forced us to try new things because the consumer wanted, because the traveler wanted. Thus, so what I see how this getting evolving is we'll see more of digital and online interfaces getting developed, not only for the consumer but also for the back-end supply chain for us.
Rohit, again, talking about that experience bit. Now, when we say there is a online offline mode of shopping, there is an online offline experience, then there is a pre-purchase experience, point of sale experience, the checkout experience, and the delivery experience, and the post sale experience. What do you think, consumers spend, or what would probably, we would like to address and give that seamless experience to our consumers? What is it something that the consumers are expecting in this entire process of experience that I just spoke about? Your thoughts on that?
Hi, Rohit here. I represent Genesis, which is into retail tech. We cover the gamut of solutions from ERP to point of sale for leading edge retailers across India for last so many years. So we have been at the kind of the change hitting a lot of our retail customers over the last 2 years. And I think a lot of the work that we have been doing has been around stitching the offline and online world. Whether it is syncing your inventory to your web store or to various marketplaces, making sure that the orders are reflecting in the right time, making sure that the customer information is showing at the point of sale, even if they might have shopped online. So creating coupons which are going redeemable online, they don't need a physical coupon to actually go and redeem it, making sure that that works, making sure, so each and every touch point that a customer really engages with has some bit of tech involved, and we are usually there. What we have seen personally as a shopper, I also tried out 2 experiences from our customers, and I can share like one was an ethnic wear retailer, smallish, very small brand. Their e-com sale pre-pandemic was less than 50 lakhs, but grew very significantly soon after, and they invested a lot in their supply chain because they rebarcoded everything, make sure that every piece was accounted for, and they made sure that their supply chain visibility was like to the last piece, and which ensured that they had a fill rate of more than 98% for the online orders, and it beautifully kind of melded in the omni experience because they were fulfilling from their store at a very, very high fill rate, which is very difficult to do because it's an offline store as such, offline store experience. But it was very energizing to see that kind of growth that they experienced. The other brand was also sub 1 CR, but they also grew phenomenally. But there, probably the investment in supply chain or the training or the operations kind of somewhere fell out because when I ordered 8 pieces of goods from that, 3 got cancelled on their own, 2 I got the wrong size for, and eventually when you try to return it, I had to go through 3 or 4 phone calls to get my refunds for each of those garments. So as a post-sale experience, it was really problematic and too many interactions to solve a very simple problem. I think that's where a lot of brands need to work on to kind of make it easier, because that's where the e-commerce players are leading the way in terms of customer experience. Is in post-sales, the number of interactions required to resolve a problem is typically very small. And here it took many steps, and so I think a lot of effort needs to be going in terms of getting the supply chain right, but also the experience part, the post-sale experience part right.
So this experience, when I say this is going to contribute, if you solve it well, this is going to contribute towards the growth side of it, the phygital business that we are talking about. Anything, Devin, you'd like to share about the delivery experience, because you provide solutions to a very complex problem logistics problems. So something that you would share around the delivery experience.
So, I think my panelists have set a very good context. In the last 1.5 years, we must have, transformed our thought process 20 times. If the same thing we did in the previous 10 years, I think we did that in the last 1.5 years. And one of the things, we being the essential services and spanning various sectors apart from retail, so e-commerce, retail, FMCG, pharma, we deal with variety of customers, and therefore we saw the pandemic very, very closely. In fact, 70% of our senior management had virus affecting them. Some of them went to the ICU. So our exposure with the frontline sales and the operations was very, very close. And there are some learnings that I would be happy to share here. There are two types of worlds we saw. One world was the e-commerce world, which was perhaps ready for a pandemic kind of a situation. As in, they had created those touch points where physically, except a fulfillment center, which is what we run, there is very little interaction with the real consumer. It is only through an app, and therefore they boomed. And my other, I'm not going to give names, a lot of my customers are here, I'm assuming, but there are my other friends from the so-called offline world, which some of them obviously picked up pace, but were caught unawares, because neither their systems nor their operations was designed to handle this kind of complexity suddenly emerging. The supply chains were just in time, based on cost and not much on customer experience on the online side, because that was not their business model in the first place.
Correct.
So some of them picked up space in the second part of the second wave of pandemic. But in the first wave, they were almost dying out, every day crying for help, but did not know. So there were two interesting patterns which emerged. First one was that customer actually has got used to a very different speed, which is something that I don't think even we ourselves had forecast. What we used to do in 24 hours or even 6 hours, e-commerce made us do it in 30 minutes. And it worked, because they were also working along with us in improving the processes and all that. So I'm sure all of you have ordered from Amazon. You will get 4 boxes if you order 4 items. So they're spending 4 times the packaging cost, 4 times the delivery cost for a customer experience. And therefore, they are investing disproportionately on customer experience. Whereas the B2B world will consolidate. We'll try and make sure that if the order is going to the same household, in the same pin code, can I optimize? And that's hardwired into their brain. They don't think like this, they have 4 boxes, they all come from 4 different distribution centers in Bhiwandi itself. The same company has got 4 distribution centers sending one piece each. So there's a 4-time cost. But the customer experience is phenomenal. 9 o'clock you order something, 10 o'clock it is there. Otherwise I have a penalty system. And I'm sure that delivery boy also has a penalty and an incentive system linked. So the customer experience is wow. Now customer is getting safety and convenience.
Correct.
And real time. And there is no human interface, or you don't have to speak to anybody. If it has to be returned, it will be seamless again. So this kind of experience now is available even in a small town. I spoke to somebody in Jabalpur. Jabalpur is a 1 million plus town, will come in top 100 towns. And the customer wanted jalebi. Okay, this is one of the persons whom I know. So that jalebi comes from a very well-known old store inside the city, which is difficult to reach. It will not take less than 30-40 minutes. So when you order, and they said, "Yaar, chalo, thand hai, thodi jalebi khate hain." So in half an hour, the jalebi came home. I mean, unimaginable before pandemic, let me tell you. That guy, the jalebi wala, never thought about it, the consumer never thought about it. But look at it this way, that it has created consumption on its own accord. So there are a lot of those categories which have created because of supply chains availability at your phone. And I think, and I'm not differentiating online and offline, That fellow has also created that system. That Jalebi wala has a delivery fleet. He has tied up perhaps with XYZ. He has put 2-3 guys who can deliver. His sales, I'm sure, multiplied 5x, 6x. In the pandemic, what are you thinking? Chalo kuch khate hain, jalebi aayegi aadmi. Because, you know, you like that taste. So what are you doing? You are essentially converging. So these two worlds will converge in my mind. Whether it is X brand or Y brand, these two worlds will converge. See, e-commerce cannot keep on doing what it is doing at the cost that it is doing. At the same time, the so-called legacy businesses offline also, they will have to invest in supply chain because it will pay back disproportionately because the consumer behavior has changed forever. Some of the parts of the consumer behavior have changed forever. And consumer is nobody else. Consumer is your wife. You ask your wife, if she is giving you an answer, that's the benchmark. I'm saying all of us have enough consumer data points available. Some of it will go back. What he's saying, I have no argument. The consumer will obviously enjoy shopping. But what I'm saying is if I want jalebi at 8 in the night and I don't feel like going, it's a demand that is available today and there are people who will capitalize on it. And it is applying to various categories which I myself have never thought of. So to that extent, I think there are two worlds. The other world, one more, just one example. In a classic textbook of supply chain, you draw a cost and service graph. Till 95-98%, it's almost like a incline of a 45-degree. From 95-98%, there is no Six Sigma, it's straight 100%, it goes straight up, vertical. E-commerce is a 100% business. We don't allow even Six Sigma in it. Six Sigma also is 6 in a million that you will, you are allowed to miss. Manufacturing used to talk about Six Sigma. E-commerce does not talk about Six Sigma. It talks about 100% all the time. And that is the world in terms of investment in supply chain, which will pay back disproportionately, will have to be invested upon. Those brands who will do this, I'm sure will win. Yes, there is a long-termness in that, but I think you can't wish away that anymore.
One very interesting point that you made, Devin, is the Amazon example where you said like 4 boxes. And again, we'll tie it back to our own statement. How do we make it profitable? Of course, our hardwired brains would say that please consolidate, and the recent ESG stuff would also say that please do the consolidation and reduce the wastages that you are generating. But at the same time, there is an organization which is focusing so much deeply into the customer experience. And very interesting example of the jalebi that you gave. That means there is space for everyone. It need not be a brand. They are supported by technology. They are getting paid by Google Pays, and maybe a WhatsApp is just helping them order the jalebi which they wish to have at 9 p.m. at night. Very interesting example that you gave, Devin. Again, if Anay or Abhijit, if you could share about more on the consumer behavior. We understand customer experience is very, very important. And something consumer behavior, it said like, because the pandemic has been there for 18 months, so something has become a habit. Consumer behavior has changed. If I take my own example, I never used to buy pharmacy products over online. We used to go to the local store who knew us and would deliver. But now we are saying, please go and order it online. It's delivered. So has the behavior changed? In me, yes, for that particular segment, the behavior has changed. So if you can narrate based on your experiences, how the consumer behavior has changed. What is going to stay probably? Maybe, as you said, something would get rolled back, but then something would change, and probably as marketers, as retailers, we will have to think and address that consumer behavior as we move along. So what would that be, Abhijit, if you could share?
I'll put it, I think 3 things which has changed in 18 months or 20 months. One is all of us have got used to what I call immediacy. We want everything immediate. Moment we decide, we want to have it. And that's where, as he was saying, there was a marked difference how the fulfillment happens. You may be able to discover the product, but who finally does the fulfillment properly wins. And like you were saying, there's a marked difference between omni-channel retailer and a pure e-commerce player. That's right. Second is, I think, immersion. What has customers have got used to, and this is across the age group, not the bloomers, not the Z and Y and X. We keep on differentiating. It's called, I think, it's the immersion. People want to get the experience of the product or the services wherever they decide to experience it. So if they're at the store, it's fine. If they're not at the store, on their app or on the e-commerce, and the quality of immersion, how personalized that can be made. So there was a very interesting case study. I was in a development program, and they were showing me, because I'm from the travel sector, the professor was showing me the post-sale experience in a couple of our OTAs, online travel agents. And it was shocking. I never understood what is the difference. I will not name it, but two of the OTAs, when somebody raises a query, obviously first few moments are the chatbots, your name, email ID, PNR number, booking number, blah, 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 and all that. And then suddenly, first few answers come in fraction of a second, and then the chatbot disappears. Obviously, because the actual query is raised, my refund has not been done, my hotel is not available, the service goes for a toss. As compared to the number 3, and who the OTA will now shortly go for a IPO, is where every query is answered in a minute maximum. Either answered or deferred with a timeline saying we'll get back to you by 5 p.m., 6 p.m. So what I'm trying to say is the interaction has become very important, quality. For the sake of digital transformation, most of the retailers or many of the e-com players got into the habit of developing chatbots, calling that to be personalized. I think that was not personalization, that was actually moving away from personalization. You actually created a barrier where you took the details in first 10 seconds and then disappeared. So to sum it up, it's the immediacy, it is the interaction, quality of interaction, and the immersion. They're the 3 I's which has got developed in the last 20 months.
So we have talked about customer, behavior. For us, what we have seen is the expectation, and I think you have rightly pointed out, right? The expectation of customer has really skyrocketed. So for example, and I'll give you, I can't beat the jalebi wala example, but we had our own jalebi experience when during, Makar Sankranti, we showed a plan, our merchant team showed a plan to the management team saying, we'll have patangs now and, the string and everything. So they said, okay, fine. So they said, we are having it in stores. Why not in JioMart? Now we are a hyperlocal player, right? And to have those items in every shop, wherever we want to service the customer was a challenge. But then we had to overcome it because the customers are demanding. Another anecdote. So we celebrate Chhat Puja, right? Across wherever, there is a substantial population which is celebrating Chhat Puja. So this time, we not only have the usual, fruits and vegetable or those items. We went ahead and we had that mitti ka chula. We had that fatka, what they call, which is used for puja, right? We had those, we are selling those. We had never sold those. There is no supply chain for that. There is no vendor for that. But the customer has pushed us, right? You have to keep all my things in one place. If you are selling me banana, why can't you send me a mitti ka chula when you know that I would need it in Chhat Puja? Their customers have become so demanding. Some of this will stick, right? And I'll also say that, during the pandemic, what we have also seen, customers have got this habit of spending more, to be very honest, especially on grocery. Because what we saw that the average ticket value, has increased steadily and a lot of it has stayed. So the customers are buying more. I am not sure whether it has hit the restaurant business, but the point is now my home is my own restaurant. And you see a lot of that, at least with some of our stores.
So we will have to just wait for the tourism sector to come up and travelers, eating away the share of wallet, and then probably we'll again come and ask you whether your share of wallet has increased or not. But again, that's a very interesting point. But again, one point which you alluded to is for that mitti ka chula and the supply chain behind it. A hyperlocal store is thinking on those lines, and Amazon is thinking on those lines. Devin, again coming to you, you are the person who is going to solve this for them, right? As we move to, and there was one study, the next level of growth is coming from the Jabalpur and the Indores of the world, that is the tier 2 cities. That is where my logistics network has to go and support. The planning function behind it becomes very, very important. That means which article, which category, what is the catchment area, what does the consumer of that catchment require, whether it is, again taking the example of chula or a jalebi or ABC. That planning becomes very, very important. Of course, planning is very much dependent on the data elements which is getting captured through various touch points that a user has, and the kind of digital prints that he leaves. That is the kind of source of our analytics. How do you see that as organizations you will be in a position to solve the problem? One is from a merchandiser standpoint. How does he plan and how does he think hyper locally? And from your standpoint, how do you go and service these kind of requirements of customers? Because if you are not able to do it, this model is not going to survive.
Extremely valid question. And I think the context has already been set, so my job is easy. We have mapped 588 districts and about 15,000 odd pin codes. And my brethren in the logistics teams and some of those who are focused on e-commerce much more than even I am, have mapped every single pin code. And today, pin code level mapping and forecasting is very, very possible. However, like he mentioned, that when you do this for the first time, this mitti ka chula for the first time, and we have done this in my previous avatar when I was a retailer, that we started selling burqas. We did not know how many burqas we'll sell. We had our regular merchandise, we would have, so we opened, in those days Big Bazaar was a standard store, so you would say, okay, 20,000 women's apparel, so you go and put all the merchandise that is sold in all the other stores, and you go ahead and make a merchandising plan. You don't think too much about it because this is a 26 store, so 25 stores have a certain template and therefore you follow it in 26 store. And you realize that the Muslim women are obviously not biting into it. So somebody said that, why don't you put a burqa store? I said, what is their store in terms of how many SKUs? So we realized there are 120 different types of burqas. And I'm talking of way back. So obviously it is different now. So 120 types of burqa SKUs is something that we ourselves had no clue. So when you start for the first time, we ran out of stock in one day. Because whatever we had planned sold out in the first day. So it took us for us about 30-40 days to put a full system in place. And then we said that out of the 100 stores, which are the places where I can go and apply that? And the store, this particular catchment, we understood that pattern and we cracked it. It took us 60-90 days. Believe me, today, it can happen in 1-2 days. The kind of data speed, what he is doing today in Chhat Puja, next time, believe me, not only them, everybody will be ready with that kind of supply chain. And that's where people like us will also have to work and make sure that those templates are created where I can tell you, Chhat Puja is now a national festival. 5 years back, it was not a national festival. Though the same population was there, but they were celebrating in a very, very different way. Like Karwa Chauth has become a national festival in the last 5-7 years. So India, to that extent, has these patterns which are obviously changing, but the moment you crack it once, the replication becomes that much faster over a period of time.
Yeah.
The second thing is, you can imagine that we are a platform and a pipe. The more you flow through the pipe, and that's where it answers the second question that perhaps you have not yet asked, but is there, how do you make it profitable? And I am taking this liberty to add my 2 pennies bit on that. That today he has passed a Chhat Puja, whatever X number of products. In the same pipe, tomorrow, another, whether it's a Patang or whether it is X or Y, from a supply chain perspective, it is the same pipe. And when I'm building a capacity with somebody like him as a partner, I am churning out of that, and that's where it becomes a pay-per-use model, because for him, it could be this, for somebody else, it is something else. And when I do this across sectors, and when I do this across geography, I start building scale, which I partner with people like him and create a sustainable economic model out of that. That's the grand design, and I think that's the grand design we are moving towards.
So we touched upon points like customer experience, the supply chain side of it. Now, again coming back to the customer acquisition cost. Today, how are organizations spending, be it personalization, hyper-personalization, assistance at the stores to help you make recommendations for you. You have loyalty programs working for you. The cost of acquisition, how do we minimize the cost of acquisition, if that is the right question to ask? And how do we retain customers? Because today the customers are having plethora of choices, and for each one, on each of their mobile phones, they will be having multiple of apps to meet their choices, right? The preferences that they make. Now, I am investing in plethora of things, and yet I do not have a loyal customer. Or the customer, rather I put it this way, that he has an option of moving on to other options. Now, how do we minimize the cost of acquisition, and how do we ensure that somebody stays with us for a longer period? What has been your experience? Maybe Abhijit, you can share, and then we can look into Anay, your experience.
Sure. So we typically work in a format where we are primarily a retailer, and the phygital part or the digital part comes as a service. Now, but on the flip side, people when they travel abroad, be it be us or retailers in Heathrow or anywhere, you tend to kind of pre-plan your traveling and what will you do during your work travel or a leisure travel 15-20 days in advance. So your digital exposure starts much way before your actual date of interaction with the retailer or with the airport. So, what we have started doing is, earlier what we were doing was we were focusing a lot on acquisition, as in acquire as many as customers from different channels. What we realized, and this all happened in last few months when we started studying the new behavior, is we were failing to adopt to the acquired customer. So what I mean is the kind of the customer life cycle has changed a bit. The typical awareness, acquisition, and then the traditional challenges change to you acquire customer. This is very this is my perspective of the retail business now, is you acquire customer. To minimize the acquisition cost is you adopt the customer. I think the biggest mistake we do is we acquire the customer and we start cross-selling or bombarding him with, or typically what we say is increasing the wallet share. By trying to do that, what we ensure is we overexpose ourselves. So in the entire customer life cycle today is more about acquire right customer, acquire less but acquire quality customer, adopt them, then cross-sell them, and then probably the advocacy or loyalty will come. But we will all have to accept with the amount of options available, the loyalty of your customer is as good as the service you have provided or the best service you have provided till the last time. You slip once, you lose the customer. I mean, whatsoever you say, even within the airlines today, or even in the retailer, till you are able to give the same level of service or better, till the last interaction, the customer stays with you, otherwise they move away.
So acquisition cost, right? So what we have seen as a marketer is a lot of things are moving digital. That is your first point where you try to bring the acquisition cost, because in digital it's hyper personal, right? I know who my customer is and what content I'm serving him. There are no leakages like, previously we used to print leaflets, we still do, but a lot of it has shifted to digital now. So while the, BTL is still there, your leaflets, your newspaper ads, but digital, go digital. On retention, you have to, as he rightly said, you don't bombard him. First you have to onboard him, make sure he becomes a loyal customer. And, churn is a fact of life. There will always be churn. You cannot escape it. So, but what you have to do is to identify your most loyal set of customers, look at their churn, and then ask them questions. So we have this program where we keep on asking, our lapsers, what's the reason? And there you identify, is there something, you could do better? Is your service going bad? Is your, are there any actionables coming out of it? Most of the times what, we find out, I have shifted cities. My office has shifted. These are things which are, non-actionable, which are fine. But if customers, constantly are giving you feedback, no, your stores are becoming dirty. Your staff is rude. You are not keeping what I'm buying. Then that's a cause of concern, and then you go back and change that. And we talked about analytics, right? The potential is tremendous. The amount of data that we have today, especially when in a phygital world, we know what he's buying offline, we know what he's buying online, what are his preferences. So always give the relevant offer at the relevant time. So for example, if I know that one of my consumers, she always comes in the afternoon, and to my store, and she comes with a group of friends, she browses, she comes twice a week, and she also purchases fresh produce. So I know I have that personality, I have those group of personalities. I have to, make my communication in such a manner that it she's able to understand that and respond to it, rather than giving straight simple template based communication. So I think that movement is very much necessary, and it it helps us. So traditionally, in terms of recommendations, what used to come out was, okay, we said bread, what goes with bread? Butter, jam, why not? That's your typical mindset. But what does data tell you? So we were surprised, okay, with bread, what people are buying in the basket, it's laddi pav. It's batter, because and we talked to women, to confirm the hypothesis that is the data coming out correctly? Is it causality or is this correlation? What is it? So they said when we are buying bread, we are thinking about our next 3 or 4 days breakfast. So batter for me is important. For me, laddi pav is important because that's tomorrow's breakfast. I don't think about butter. Butter, I have it for a month. Butter is a pantry buy. So those kind of things are, what
The
comes out of data.
the insights that come out and how you act upon it. But again, the point which I was trying to understand is these reward systems, the loyalty points, how effective are they in retaining consumers?
See, we have a loyalty program which is across Reliance Retail and across channels. So JioMart, all the physical formats, be it trends, grocery, digital, they have one program. This, what we call it, is permission marketing. We are collecting your phone number, we are collecting your data, and you are giving me permission to give you SMS, give you a call, give you a WhatsApp. That's it. Don't think of it in terms of, as a tool for retention. She is giving you your data, she is giving you access to her phone, you should be happy with that. That's the line of thought that we are taking.
At the point, like if I may ask, you have 3 formats. Suppose say one is the the, if I may say, there is a 7-Eleven kind of a format, there is a large format, and then there is a JioMart. Now, is there a unified experience for a consumer, and is there a unified reward system for the multiple touch points that they would be making with Reliance at different points in time? Is that a unified one, and is that even rewarding for you? Like, while you reward the customer, is it rewarding for you as well as an organization?
So we have a unified program, right? You earn every time you shop in any of my formats, be it JioMart, be it a 7-Eleven, be it a Reliance Smart Store, and you can earn and burn points anywhere. What it gives me is a whole paradigm of the customer journey. When is he visiting a smaller fresh? When is he visiting online? And when is he visiting a destination store like Smart? What is he shopping? And of course, the benefit that I get also is I know when he has bought a new washing machine. I know when it is time for him to upgrade from a detergent powder to a Matic powder. I know that life journey also. I know when he has got a kid, because from Reliance Trends he starts buying kids clothes. So now I can.
You are having greater access to the data.
Yeah, so if I have that access, it is a treasure. And to be very honest, you should look at loyalty program not as giving points, because that's an additional benefit, but rather as an access to the data.
Perfect. Now we are just 13 minutes short of time, but then the most important theme that we wanted to touch upon is how to make the business profitable. I will not start with Anay, of course, because you as a group believe in the scale. Abhijit, your thoughts on how to make the phygital business, like you also have a bit of online, offline presence, you book online, pick offline. So how to make this entire business largely, if not for you, but for the large set of retailers out here, how do you make it profitable? What are the kind of right choices that one should make to stay profitable?
The answer is very simple. First, you have to decide, do you want to be profitable or not?
That's a very good one.
I'm being very straightforward, because for a retailer, be it us or Reliance, either you decide to be a profitable or you decide not to be a profitable. We call it in our company is responsible marketing or responsible retailing. We do not do things to buy sales. So many e-com players today do things to buy sales. So that's where the EBITDA is negative, the PBT is negative, everything is negative. So that's more of buying sales or self-financing sales. And that's also a conscious decision. I mean, there is a bigger picture to it. We call it a valuation game or whatever, or a market share acquisition. So that's the conscious decision they have taken. I think it also depends for any retailer what is the structure of the organization. I mean, if I take examples of travel retailers or the other homegrown retailers in India, the structure is very simple. Everybody wants a top line. Everybody eventually wants some bottom line to be there. Be it be pure retail or phygital, or part of it is only phygital. The entire thing, if your objective is to earn profit and have a respectable top line, then everything has to contribute. So it cannot happen that I will run retail profitability, but entire phygital part of it or the omnichannel part of it will be built on a loss. So that's the answer.
Thanks, Abhijit. Devin, any thoughts from you? Like, as I said, you handle a very important aspect in the entire scheme of things. But again, largely, how to make this business profitable? And I'd then be more specific here. Let us keep the valuation game out of it. So then, how do we make it profitable?
Yeah, so valuation anyway, I'm sure I do not have any idea about how valuations operate. I am a hardcore supply chain guy, so let me just give you my understanding, and we have been doing this for multiple years now in my previous avatar in future supply chain. One of the things we realized was that investing in supply chain led us to reduce the cost. So we were running 16 different warehouses in those days, and when we consolidated that into one single warehouse at Nagpur, which is a 5 lakh square foot, we invested 100 crores in that one particular distribution center. It was a big number 10, 11 years back. But what it did was, our cost of supply chain went down from about 6% to less than 1.5%. And that happened largely because of the scale that we could bring in. And the entire thing being bound by technology helped us reduce the inventory. So biggest cost in any retail or retail is inventory. And how do you manage your inventory? And that is largely possible to do today by investing in supply chain infrastructure, which is modern, and the technology, which is, the kind of eyes and ears of that infrastructure. Then I include a road, I include a truck, and I include a warehouse in that. Because finally, that is what is the raw material for a retail business. Now today, thankfully, and that is the only way in which it can become profitable, is that how does a retailer or an e-tailer manage inventory? And if you see, most of them are either investing it themselves or making it into an OPEX by outsourcing it to a 3PL company. Whether you do it with any company today, that is how worldwide retail and e-tail have evolved. So we are not trying to do anything new or original in this. Neither is it an untested business model. The business model is very simple. If you can manage it yourself, which is a huge complexity, as the number of SKUs proliferate and to do it yourself become more and more difficult. If you're confident, do it yourself. If you're not confident, convert it into an OPEX. Pay-per-use is available for both technology. On cloud today, it is cheaper. Similarly, supply chain infrastructure from people like us is also on pay-per-use. And when I say per carton, I have a cost price per unit kind of a model, which means for a carton, I charge X rupees. You scale up as much as you want. Entire country is one network, and people like me will be happy to give you a service as and when you need, where you need. That is a possibility today. 10 years back, we did not have that, and therefore we had to create ourselves. So I'm saying, apart from that, what country is doing to make it cheaper? If Bombay-Delhi trip, I don't know how many of you must have seen the video, Bombay-Delhi trip in 12 hours is a dream that is visible. 2023, you will see a truck, we will run that truck at 100 kilometers an hour. 12 hours, Bombay-Delhi. The minister tested it. Some of you may have seen the video. Believe me, in terms of cost, it will drop your cost by 10 to 12% on that lane alone.
Wow.
We will put a 40-footer truck where we do 20-footer truck right now. We will put a 60-footer truck the moment the roads are capable of handling. And it is nothing original worldwide. That's how the movement happens.
Absolutely.
So what I'm saying is not untested idea. It is something that the world is already doing. And that's where I believe that the government or whoever else is also working on the same idea. And as retailers, the biggest cost is inventory management, which either you should do it on your own if you're very confident, otherwise outsource. Outsource this entire thing. It is very easy to do today, including putting technology on cloud. I would say these are the 2 or 3 broad ones, and these are all well-known case studies, so nothing original here. In India it may be, but world has already done this many times before.
Thanks, Devin. Rohit, any thoughts from you in terms of how to make this business profitable?
I think the panel has spoken very well. I think the key points: know your merchandise, know your customer, invest in technology, invest. If you don't have the wherewithal, then invest in a right partner. Definitely, I think a lot of times people go in and say that I want my entire inventory online. That I think is a bit of a double-edged sword. Most of the time, you have to know what you're selling, and half of the challenge is half of them don't know what they have in the inventory. So that's when things backfire. So until unless you know what is there, I think it's going to backfire, and then you will face losses. So if you know what you're selling, then it's good. Then you will probably turn a profit on it, because It's possible. Some of our customers have a profitable e-com business going on a standalone basis. Marketplaces are again, if you are not one of the leading players on the marketplace, then it may not be a viable option for you because the cost that they charge for on a per transaction net of return basis is too high to kind of sustain the cost of doing that operation itself. So probably might be a good idea to stay out of it and try to build your own brand. I think there's a lot of potential in that. In any way, I think that's where you want to grow. But the marketplace can get you a flavor of the game if you're new to it. That's it.
Thanks, Rohit. Now, Anay, what's your idea of profit and, of course, scale?
So I'll keep it brief given that we are at the end of the session. See, for us, it is always to come up with a strategy. So we spend a lot of time in coming up with this strategy. Once we are sure what we want to do, we follow it through. And I think that's the key to building a profitable business. You have to believe in your strategy and make sure that your actions on ground are actually that. So when I talk as a retailer, I have to make sure that I know my audience. I know who my target consumer is, who she is. If once I'm sure, I know her in and out, I have, been in her home, I have seen her cook, I have seen her pantry, if I am sure of that, and then the rest is on the consumer, she will travel, she will make you profitable. So a good consumer is one who will have the, make sure that you are profitable as well as she's getting a good deal. Because there is always this trade-off. If you look at any store and India is a country where even today more than 80% of grocery shopping is unorganized, and these people are running shops which are profitable because they are earning their daily wages out of that. They are, retailing and e-tailing both can be profitable. And there's an important point. So we think e-tailing is new to India. E-tailing is not new to India. These Kirana people, they have been taking orders on phone. They have been taking orders on WhatsApp for ages. So this is something we have just provided a cover, a wrapper. JioMart is a wrapper, right? In the end, she's just giving you a list of what she wants. So as long as you know who your consumer is and you stay true to your strategy, I think profit will follow.
So we are again back to the fundamentals, which know your customer. The customer is the king. Know your customer and probably also know what the customer is going to think in due course. Again, as we come to the close of the session, would like to open it up for discussion. Like any questions that the audience would like to have for the panel members. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. My name is Sohel and I'm from Apollo Pharmacy. And I think it was a very interesting discussion and I got a lot of insights. I just wanted to understand whether any one of you have experienced some shift in consumption from metro cities to tier 2 cities. And if that has happened, how long it will stay there? And will a part of it remain permanently there? Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, please. Sir.
So, if you look at our store, and forget our store, JioMart, when we launched in May of 2020, we launched in 200 plus cities in India in one go. So one day we launched in 200 cities. And more than 50% of my orders are from what we call tier 2 and below. So if you have the presence, if you have the retail store presence as well as e-tail presence, there is an innate demand. And I think you will also concur with me that tier 2 is not far away in any consumption pattern. we sell more, your chocolate Nutellas. We sell more of Dove body wash in tier 2 cities than in a tier 1 city. So the consumption is there.
I think well said. Let me just add, India is a large geographical country, and I don't know how many of you track road, but we obviously do. 38 kilometers of road is getting added every day. For somebody who has never had a road in his or her town, a road is a very big thing. Not many of us in Bombay realize it. I will tell you 2-3 things. First is, what is the leading indicator for shopping? It is a phone. It is, and a road. Phone and road both are needed. And we must be the, I think, if not the largest, the second largest country which accesses internet through the phone, not through a computer. The phone penetration is far more. The single biggest category, $64 billion of merchandise was sold in this Big Billion Day. Close to 47% was smartphones. And close to 60% of that in the first wave, if my numbers are, if I remember it correctly, was in small towns for accessing education, not for shopping. How did the schools work? Schools worked on phones, and phones were therefore, and people have mortgage to buy a phone for their children, because education is high up on the priority. Now that same phone is a store today. It is another matter how many of us have actually used that access. But the moment a phone is there in the house, you have opened a shop, in fact you have opened a mall in his house. Now which brand is able to leverage it well, that is for each brand to figure out. And when I gave you the jalebi example, I will give you one more example. In a city, when you travel, and these stories, we have various people coming from these places, so these are all first-hand stories. So at Raipur airport, if you have to travel to Bilaspur, okay, you have a taxi. You can go Saurabh taxi or Rahul taxi or somebody. You call him up right now, he will give you an answer in the second ring, if not first. He will tell you what is the fare that day. There is no return fare. It's a one-way fare. He will give you the driver's details. So when you board the aircraft from Bombay and if you land at Raipur, before you land, there will be a taxi allocated to you, payment link marked to you, the taxi details, and you are not being charged the return fare. It's very easy to get a taxi for return fare. It's always double. It is his problem. He figures it out. He runs a fleet. He runs that in 4 cities. All this is digital. All this was not there 2 years back. He does not use any fancy device. It's all WhatsApp. Now, what point I'm making is, the things are changing much faster. It is after that, then an enterprise's capability and how innovative you are in terms of using all of this. The infrastructure, which is a mobile phone and a road, are there. I use mobile phone as an infrastructure. After that, it is on respective brands on how they look at their business and figure out a way of making business out of it.
Thanks. We have run out of time. Any questions, the panel members can take it offline. And thank you, panel members. It was a very good discussion on the topic. And again, as I said, consumer is going to be the king, and we need to believe on our strategy. And we have enough entrepreneurs in this country to, give ideas to innovate and succeed. Phygital is here to stay. Thank you very much.